Hi.
Hi.
Apparently he wanted to start the video off by liquiding. Okay. This is the very first terrible movie review. I've had this idea in my head for a while now that I've wanted to do, and this movie in particular was the very first movie I wanted to do. Because even though... I'm gonna move this a little bit, so there we go. Even though it had been since I was a child, since I'd actually seen the movie, I knew even when I was a kid how terrible it was. So I actually recently downloaded the movie and watched it, and took a lot of notes on how terrible this movie is, and you guys are about to find out. Street Fighter, the live-action movie from 1994.
Okay.
Are you alright?
Yes.
Alright. Now, just in case I forget any key points, I have my notes right here. Now, there are so many problems with this terrible movie that it just pretty much seemed like the makers just completely and utterly ass-raped Capcom's whole vision of Street Fighter.
And there again, like we may have discussed a couple of times in private conversation, maybe some royalties were switched around. I mean, they do the same thing with Marvel all the time with their storylines. You only use these characters. You only say these characters what we let you say about these characters. Look, you got the notes. We did the research. What they allow people to represent about certain things that have already been copyrighted since, I don't know, a decade ago whenever the games came out.
Okay, here's the thing. While restrictions can be given to creators, directors, writers, all that, the restrictions are still no excuse for how much of a train wreck this movie was.
Very true. There were a lot of blatant inaccuracies relating to the characters.
Oh God. Let's get into those, shall we?
I was about to say, let's go ahead and start the slaughter fest.
Street Fighter the movie, 1994.
1994.
Let's start with the biggest flaw.
Flop.
Guile. Okay, Guile was one of the, not the biggest, but one of the biggest flops in the movie. The reason being is they immediately escalated him to main character status. Okay, that's not too bad, but the fact that you have Jean-Claude Van Damme playing Guile is a train wreck. Okay, Guile is a major in the game series, but in the movie he is a colonel. That can be ignored, to a certain extent.
I thought the main thing that would have annoyed you about that one is that an American was portrayed by a Frenchman.
He's actually Belgium.
He's Belgium?
He is Belgium. Jean-Claude Van Damme is a Belgian man, yes. And the fact that you're trying to portray an American who blatantly has an American flag tattooed on his arm is being portrayed by a Belgian man makes no damn sense.
Well, I mean, another thing that kind of threw me off about the whole thing is that historically, Guile has always been one of your flat top. I mean, can we go back to like Tekken with Paul, one of your flat top American blonde dudes? Just the hair. Like, I would say Kid and Play Eraserhead for reference on that one, but there again, that's a whole different ballpark.
So yeah, you have Guile, an American man played by a Belgian man who has a very thick, distinct accent. There is no way he can pull off being an American because that accent's so thick that he cannot hide it.
That's Jean-Claude for you.
I mean, Jean-Claude Van Damme, he's a great actor, don't get me wrong.
And a very impressive fighter.
But terrible idea for Guile.
Sonic? Busted.
The next character we're going to move on to is Chun-Li.
Lady with the buns in her hair.
Chun-Li is an Interpol officer from the game series who, in the movie, is portrayed as a news reporter.
Yeah.
How is this supposed to make sense?
I mean, even in the animated movies, Interpol agent, not... Excuse me, can I take your opinion on something?
I mean, it's stupid. And even in the movie, she has a semi-close relationship with Guile, which, again, makes no sense.
Well, I mean, the fact that if she were represented as an Interpol agent, that would make sense as far as law enforcement goes with Guile's position in the military. But as a reporter,
Yeah. There's no logic here.
I mean, Don't Ask, Don't Tell was thrown out the window a while back, but it's Street Fighter. We shouldn't have to go that far.
Right. So we move on to the next character, Cammy.
Yay.
Who for the most part was correctly done, except for the fact that she is supposed to be a teenager and is clearly portrayed by an adult.
Wait, she was a teenager?
Cammy is a teenager in the Street Fighter series.
Well, I mean, they were getting in the games. I mean, I'm not trying to sound like one of those fighter game nerd pervs, but she was
Right.
scantily clad for what was supposed to be, what, a British Interpol officer or an
Yes.
assassin?
Well, she is a former servant of the Shadowloo.
Right.
So yes, she was an assassin. But eventually she turns to the good side and she is a teenager. And in the movie she's portrayed by Kylie Minogue, who everybody knows as a singer, artist.
Anyone played any of the DDR Max games, I think she has a couple of tracks. Oh, God.
While for the most part Cammy was done correctly as a British agent, the fact that she's supposed to be a teenager and clearly played by an adult, that is one fact you can't really ignore.
I mean, I think that right there is just mostly something for... I mean, was she really portrayed as a woman of wisdom? Is that what you're saying? Or was it just age versus cosmetics?
Age versus cosmetics.
Okay.
Okay, the next one is Sagat. This one is
Sagat.
terrible because nothing about Sagat was done correctly in this movie.
Sagat.
They call him Sagat throughout the entire movie. And it's not like we're talking about Bob Saget, for Christ's sake. We're talking about Sagat, the Thai person from the games who is mainly a main villain throughout the games.
Tiger.
Now we have Sagat,
Tiger.
who's supposed to be Thai, portrayed by a Native American man.
He was an Indian?
He was portrayed by a Native American. That is a major issue because he's supposed to be from Thailand. So he's in no way, shape, or form of Asian descent, and he should be. Not only that, he hardly does anything in the movie. I mean, he and M. Bison have a falling out and all that, but he himself doesn't really do much fighting, and that is problematic.
That's actually kind of disappointing because Sagat was one of my favorite characters going through the series. Like I just did earlier for spoofs, you know, Tiger High, Tiger Low, bread and butter.
Right. So Sagat is supposed to be the rival of Ryu, and we'll get to Ryu here in a moment.
Oh God.
And oh my God, that's terrible. So we're gonna move on from Sagat, and we're gonna go to Ezamun Honda.
It's your moon Honda.
Honda is a Japanese sumo wrestler who in the movie is portrayed by a Samoan man.
Dosoi. What?
How are you supposed to portray a Japanese sumo wrestler by a Samoan?
I guess their thought on that one was they're both fat.
That's a stereotype from hell, sir.
You tell me what the director was thinking.
I think the director was on drugs. I'm just putting that out there. Not only is he Samoan, he's not a sumo wrestler in the movie, so to speak. He is more or less Chun-Li's news technician. He runs the news van.
That's the one thing that really messed with me about it because E. Honda's big quest in Street Fighter was always to show that sumo wrestling was the world's best fighting style. I don't think this dude hungry for victory would be hungry for helping someone else with a spotlight.
Yeah, it's pretty terrible. You don't put a Samoan in a Japanese man's shoes. It just
There
doesn't.
again, like, he didn't fight Honda.
Yeah.
100 hand slap.
The next character we're moving on to is Delson, the yoga master. Yoga fire. Yoga flame. Okay, my main issue with this is he shouldn't have even been included in the movie if they were going to do this to him. They made him a frickin' scientist that works for M. Bison. He is the guy who does all the experimenting on Blanca.
See, that did not make one lick of sense to me. I mean, I'm just thinking India. And the dude was supposed to be a pacifist, even though they gave this guy the ability to stretch across the stage and spit fireballs.
And he had a head full of hair. You
What?
can't ignore that. He wasn't bald. He had a head full of hair.
That's That was hair?
Yeah. Well, no, in the movie he has hair.
Oh,
in the game he doesn't.
I was about to say, that was hair?
And he doesn't fight at all in this movie. He's just a lackey.
So no stretch.
Right.
No, none of that. Yeah.
Then we move on to Blanca, a Brazilian man who in the movie is portrayed by an Australian. And in the movie he is a friend of Guile, who is also a part of the military. This is a huge issue because in the games he is a Brazilian man who has a plane crash, and then in this plane crash he somehow gets electrocuted by eels so much that it changes his appearance and also gives him electrical abilities. But in the movie, the Australian man soldier that he is gets experimented on by M. Bison and Dawson, turning him into the Blanca we know.
Throughout the history of the fighting game, the only commentary you get from Blanca is the text written in on the win or lose screens. Throughout the fight, all this guy does is make animal noises. It was always a toss-up. Like, anyone that paid attention to the storyline of the game, say you grew up in the jungles of Brazil, plane crash, eels, lightning, and herons. But in this one, he's like, don't do experiments on me. I don't want to be big green and shock stuff. Oh, God.
Yeah.
Dawson, the pacifist, I'm going to make a monster even though I talk about Buddha.
Next character, Balrog, the boxer. In the games, he was pretty much modeled after Mike Tyson, but in the movie, he is an American boxer portrayed by an American man, a black man. They actually got that right. But in the movie, he is a cameraman for Chun-Li because his boxing career was ruined by the Shadow Lu. What?
So much for the raging buffalo, Guy was supposed to be basically a replica of Mike Tyson with a few charge moves here and there, but he's another cameraman?
Yeah.
Another for Chun-Li.
Yeah. A cameraman for Chun-Li.
So Chun-Li went Lady Gaga paparazzi on us all of a sudden.
I guess.
And she's got Samoan Honda and Tyson the photographer.
Basically.
That's ridiculous.
Yeah, it's stupid. So, yeah, there you have that.
Ridiculous.
Then we have Vega, the Spaniard, who is very gifted in fighting, but in the movie, he is played also by a Native American man.
A lot of Indians.
For the most part, with Vega, they got the actions right. He had the snake tattoo, but it was a lot more colorful than it is in the games and all that. But the fact that he's played by an American man and he's supposed to be a Spaniard doesn't make much sense.
Did they really make reference to his nationality at all in the movie as per se to...
Well, if you pay attention to the way he fights within the movie, you could tell that he's supposed to be Spanish because they pretty much have him doing all the fancy...
Oh, so he actually was doing the moves like jumping wall to wall, fence climbing and stuff?
Yeah, basically.
Because, if they messed up the claw, I would kill someone, because that was always my favorite thing about playing as Vega in the games. But the...
Vega's fighting style is bullfighting and ninjutsu.
From the random boogeyman.
Yeah, okay. So yeah, you have Vega, who was also screwed up.
We will give the random boogeyman his dues. Never thought about that.
So, we move on to Zangief.
The Russian Cyclone! The Red Cyclone!
He is a Russian professional wrestler who in the movie is portrayed by an American. That is an issue. But that is not as big an issue as what I'm about to say. He serves as pretty much M. Bison's lackey, who does nothing more but provide comic relief for the movie by uttering goofy lines throughout the film.
See, that's a problem. Very big problem, because I always thought that throughout the games that Sagat was basically Bison's right and left hand man. He didn't really need that much of a close-knit circle or a cabinet per se for his politics, Red Cyclone. What were some of the one-liners like? Ha, das Vidania Comrade, I wear red underpants. Are you serious?
There was one line in the movie where M. Bison makes a speech. It's around close to the beginning, and then you see Zangief pretty much cry and says, "That was beautiful."
Are you sick?
Dead serious.
Are you sick?
Now we move on to DJ, a Jamaican kickboxer, played by also an American man, who later on plays in Joe Want a Man. Interestingly enough.
What?
In the movie, he plays a computer nerd who is cowardice. He pretty much runs from fights in that movie.
I remember DJ being one of the funniest looking character animations I've ever seen in a Street Fighter game.
Yeah.
Teeth, yay, here, rest of the head here. That's all you saw in that man was a smile. Oh.
Yeah.
While he kind of threw like a ghetto version of a sonic boom and did a couple of spin kicks.
So, there's that problem with DJ. He's supposed to be a fighter, but in the movie he's a coward.
Rapid uppercut.
We move on to Ken Masters, one of the game's original main characters.
That representation of Ken, from what I've gotten from a few clips in the movie, was hilarious. He was supposed to be about the average 6'1", 6'2", long blonde hair, yes, yeah. But he kind of looked like one of Hasselhoff's off-brand redheaded stepchildren.
I think he looked like one of the guys from Double Dragon.
But
Just putting that out there.
You're wrong. You're so wrong. Oh, God.
He is actually an American, played by an American. He is portrayed as a minor character who is a criminal alongside Ryu. And under the orders of Guile, they pretty much help Sagat. Sagat, you bastards. Sagat. They pretty much help Sagat and Vega escape. And what happens here makes no damn sense because they get a hold of the keys and they're unlocking their own cuffs from the back of a van. And you see Sagat looking on and says pretty much, "Help me out. We can forget about our past and I can help you escape the city." When if you follow the game, that would never happen.
Because Ryu and Sagat had that ultimate showdown. Ryu basically roughed up Sagat's chest with that infamous scar and the busted eye with a Shoryuken.
Yeah.
And Sagat always wanted to get them get-backs.
Oh, yeah. And anybody who knows anything about the Street Fighter games knows very well that Ken and Ryu are not criminals.
No. They studied under the same master. I do believe Goken was his name. I mean, they ran under the same principles of Shotokan school fighting martial arts. However, the Hadouken was always a mythicized prophecy of using chi to channel energy to throw out Hadouken.
Oh, yeah.
And as well, the Shoryuken classic Dragon Punch.
And then you have Ryu. Oh my god, the issues with Ryu.
Ryu!
They call him Ryu in the film. You
Ryu!
never hear it said Ryu. It's always Ryu, and that irks the out of me. If you can't pronounce it right, please do not even try.
Almost said a word either.
Almost.
Almost.
He is a Chinese fighter, actually portrayed by a Chinese man. A minor character and a criminal alongside Ken. These two were never criminals, and they sure as hell should not be minor characters. These two are the main characters of the Street Fighter franchise. There's a problem here. Why?
It's fun to do that with the camera.
If you say so.
I'm not used to working in an environment like this.
You're definitely not going to have Ryu helping Sagat under any way, shape, or form. We've already covered that. It's not going to happen.
There again, the age-old rivalry. I mean, Ryu was pretty much steadfast focused in improving his craft as a martial artist. I don't think he should have been like, "Yo, dog, you got to get my handcuffs off, dog." You like, we could forget all the fact I uppercutted your chest into a hole and busted out your eye and get these cuffs off, man.
Yeah.
Like, yeah.
So now we move on to T-Hawk, a Native American character born in Mexico.
Yep.
He is portrayed as a military sergeant under Guile.
I want to know where they get military sergeant from dude about as big in character sprite design as Zangief, whose main move is flying down face first, arms second like an eagle.
Yeah. I don't get how they're supposed to put him as a military sergeant under Guile. Makes no sense.
Yeah, because I honestly think if that dude wanted to, like, he can grab him by his should be flat top blonde hair and throw him like a lawn dart.
At least they actually got a Native American man to play him.
Close enough to consistency.
And now, the last character, the only one they got right out of the entire film, M. Bison. Played by Raul Julia, who died just a few months before the film's release. He did a damn good job as M. Bison. He is about the only accurate thing from the entire movie besides Cammy a bit. It's ridiculous. They completely anally raped Street Fighter with this movie.
Anally raped?
Anally sodomized Street Fighter as a whole. Yeah, basically. I don't even know why Capcom let this disaster happen. Maybe it's because they're going to profit from it. I don't know.
Well, I mean, I hate to say this much. Like, bad publicity is still good publicity. There's no such thing as bad publicity. Even whenever you screw something up, everyone's like, what was correct about it? Think about where it takes you. I mean, the emphasis of the video, it's like, why does it make you mad?
Yeah. Okay, I definitely wanted to cover everything that was wrong with the Street Fighter movie, and I'm pretty sure we just about did that.
Yep.
I mean, the characters alone, with all the flaws and inconsistencies we have in the characters, that is more than enough to bomb a film.
I mean, there began to, like, with the focus of the film itself being the video game, who did they think their consumer market was? Like, who do you not know that understands the name Street Fighter says, oh, I recognize that, and hasn't played the game?
Exactly.
Like, enough said. You play either the first one back in the days of Turbo 2, whenever that was big in tourney game scenes, or even nowadays with Street Fighter 4, you get some kind of emphasis on the storyline.
Yeah.
Ugh.
So we're going to go ahead and conclude this monstrosity of a movie review. And please stay tuned for our next terrible movie review, Mortal Kombat Annihilation.
Yay! Mortal Kombat!
Let us know what you think about this one. If you agree with us, if you do not agree with us, please tell us why. And possibly give us some more suggestions for terrible movie reviews we can do in the future. Thank you very much for staying with us, and we appreciate every view we get. This is Liquid Dynamics signing out.
Wow.